Our next session is titled Attack on Constitutional Democracy, and it is a theme which we will follow up through the rest of the sessions and panels which are on force at this particular conclave. But before we begin, perhaps words by Avtar Singh Pash is something that we could keep in mind. सबसे खतरनाक होता है मुर्दा शांति से भर जाना, ना होता तड़प का सब कुछ सहन कर जाना, घर से निकलना काम पर और काम से लौटकर घर आना, सबसे खतरनाक होता है हमारे सपनों का मर जाना. With these words, I would like to first start with the session titled Attack on Constitutional Democracy. I would first like to invite on stage the chair, Uday Narkar. May we have Uday Narkar on stage. Uday Narkar is of course well known in Bombay and in Maharashtra. He's an English professor, author, theatre activist, and also a well-known translator of various plays into Marathi, including Crime and Punishment and Prisoners of the Seventh Horse. I would now like to call our first speaker of this particular panel, retired Justice Gopala Gowda. He is a retired justice of the Supreme Court and was also formerly justice in the Orissa High Court and the Karnataka High Court. He is often called, or still is known as, the People's Judge due to many of his judgments which were in favor of the marginalized and the working class populations in the country. May I please have retired Justice Gopala Gowda on stage, please. Our next speaker is S.L. Shetty, the founding editor of the EPW Research Foundation, an economist who is well known to most of us here, and also one of the foremost authorities on banking and finance and economics. May we please have S.L. Shetty on stage. I'll now hand over the proceedings to the chair.
Good morning, all of you. We have a very important session today with attacks on Constitution. We are well aware of various attacks being launched on the Constitution. And over the last few years, since this Mumbai collective began its proceedings, we have witnessed several escalating attacks on the Constitution that was adopted on 26 November 1949. But this is not something that has happened of late. Actually, the attacks on the Constitution began right from its beginning, right from its birth. And as we know, the Constitution, when it was adopted, was responded to by RSS and its mouthpiece, the organizer. On the very next issue of the organizer, on 30th November 1949, it criticized the Constitution and it said that this Constitution needs to be rejected because it does not mention the name of Manu in it. And Manu for them was the greatest lawgiver that humankind has ever produced. So actually the attack on the Constitution began right from its inception, and the attackers were well moved in the history of India when it was being made, the nation when it was being made, and we know all of that. I am not going to go into details of all that. But those attacks began from there, and consistently the Constitution is being attacked all over. And we know that later on what Bordoloi said about it, what Savarkar said about it. Savarkar said that Manusmriti was the most worshipable document ever produced. It was Savarkar, our own coward Savarkar, I would say. He said that. And so there is a huge legacy of all those people who have attacked the constitution. And so it is our duty to go into all that, our duty to go into the makings of this attack, this madness. There is a method to this madness, and I hope the eminent speakers who have come here will reveal the workings of that madness as it unfolds before us. This is Gopala Gowda. I welcome you.
We have heard N. Rom, a great thinker and a great journalist of this country. We were together in the students' movement way back in 1972. The topic which is chosen by Mumbai Collective for me is to say something about the constitutional institutions are in peril in India and constitutional democracy. The preamble of the Constitution very vividly describes that is a Republic Democratic India. We have got the parliamentary democratic form of governance. It is not people's democracy. Nonetheless, the Honorable Supreme Court, way back in 1973, by 13-judge constitutional bench, in Keshavananda Bharati, it is held that democracy is the basic structure of the Constitution. In number of judgments of the Supreme Court, namely the Keshavananda Bharati, the Constitution is interpreted and held is an organic document. In Bommai's case, it is said it is a political document. Now, it is a living document. The governance of the country, both by the central government, state government, and the local state governments, which are all the institutions or under the Constitution, or to govern the people of this country. I don't want to go into details of this aspect. I wanted to highlight, after 71 years of independent India, independence we got, the constitutional institutions and statutory institutions, which are very, very important for good governance of the people, both by the central government, state governments, local self-governments, are very important. There is a serious attack on these institutions, according to me, for the last decades. He has rightly pointed out, the Constitution is under attack by the people who do not believe the constitutional democracy. I don't want to repeat that, what he has said. I am very happy, I said, cream of intellectuals, professors, law teachers, jurists, laureates, social activists, youngsters, journalists, my young and energetic students who are main important persons who are going to take the reins of the power of this country are in this audience today. That has made me very happy that there is a hope in this country that any injustice that is going to be done either by the central government or by the state government or by any section of this country will be not tolerated. We will give a befitting reply in the not only elections, but there will be a strong message that will be given to them, and there is a hope that in this country we will not allow the rule of law will be blatantly violated. That is very blatant now. I am going to tell very depends upon my time. A little cryptically I may say. Apart from that, the meaning of democracy, constitutional democracy, the governors, the successive governments, either UPA or NDA, miserably failed in giving good governance to the countrymen of this country. I don't want to go into that aspect in detail. For the last 5 years, we are seeing there is a blatant violation of rule of law. There is a blatant attack on the constitutional institutions. Which are these constitutional institutions under the written constitution? A political document which is very important for good governance, and the governments which are required to adhere to their oath of office, either the legislature or the executive, they are very systematically, they are trying to attack these institutions so that there shall not be any governance of the people of this country. The number one, the constitutional institution is the Supreme Court of India. The judiciary has to play very important role to oversee the functioning of the legislature and the executive. You must have seen and read in the newspaper in the month of June 11th of 2018, 4 sitting judges, the then sitting judges, now only one person is left, 3 were retired. They came out and addressed the press, pointing out the administration under the guise of the Chief Justice is the master of the roster. There is arbitrariness in allotting the cases to particular benches. This speaks volumes. Some of the retired judges were not happy that the Supreme Court judges at that point of time who were sitting should not have come to the public domain and exposed the maladministration. But I am of the view that 4 judges at that point of time rightly came to the public domain, told to the people of this country that all is not well in the Supreme Court administration with regard to the assignment. It is against the good practices and the tradition which has been followed by the Supreme Court. So there was an arbitrariness, unreasonableness at the instance of the Chief Justice of the then Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India in assigning the cases, very important cases which determines to protect and uphold the rule of law, the most important thing which they told to the people. Now this is under attack. The Supreme Court, the judiciary, the highest court in the country, the people of this country have got tremendous confidence in the judiciary. If the people do not get justice at the hands of the executive, last resort is only the apex court. Even the apex court functioning also is interfered with indirectly by remote control by the governors of this country. There will be a bleak future of this country. Therefore, the people must raise their voice and tell to the people who are going to attack this important institution. If you attack this institution, there will be a blatant violation of rule of law, which the people will not tolerate and does not allow. The second important institution is the Election Commission. The Election Commission, the way in which the Election Commissioner is chosen by the central government speaks volumes. I don't want to go in details with reference to each case. I am on the point, 2017, the winter session was required to be summoned somewhere in the month of November or November. Elections, general election to the Legislative Assembly of Gujarat were due in the year 2017. To facilitate the ruling party which is in power at the center to see that general elections to get popularity and popular schemes are announced, Election Commission did not issue the notification and the calendar of events for conducting elections in the Gujarat state for holding Legislative Assembly elections. You have seen it. So here, if the Election Commission is constitutionally, and the judgments of the Supreme Court repeatedly said, elections in the parliamentary democracy, which is the basic picture of the Constitution, which is in the preamble of the Constitution of India, fair and reasonable elections must be held. How fair and reasonable elections? If you are delaying at the instance of the central government, if the dictates of the central government you are listening and not issuing the calendar of events to hold the elections, is it fair? Election commissions or interference? This is one instance. 17 Legislative Assembly members of Delhi Legislative Assembly were disqualified arbitrarily, unreasonably, in violation, blatant violation of the principles of natural justice, giving the interpretation that they are all the MLAs who have been appointed as the political secretaries to the Chief Minister without adhering to the principles, basic tenets of the principles of natural justice. Supreme Court has interfered with the disqualification of 17 MLAs by the Election Commission, came down very heavily by the Supreme Court. This is another glaring, blatant violation, attack on at the instance of the central government. This is another instance where Election Commission, which is a constitutional functionary, required and expected to function in a reasonable manner to conduct fair and reasonable election, so that the sovereignty of the people to given to their representatives and foreign government, the central government and state government, to govern the people of the country. Election Commission is under attack. So that's why I said, this gathering, the cream of the society who are present here, very, very important to notice this aspect of the matter, where under the preamble of the Constitution, the Republic Democratic India, democracy for the people, by the people is only for the sake of calling it, but in practice and reality, it is being subverted at the instance of the party in power to facilitate them to come to the power again is not acceptable. Such kind of election commissioners should not be there in the constitutional institution in the interest of the people of this country is my viewpoint. The another important thing is the RBI. I have finished 5 minutes. Please give me some water. Most important is the Reserve Bank of India. The Reserve Bank of India is a statutory as well as the whole economy of the country. The central bank is required to regulate it. Its autonomy is at stake today. It is at stake, and there is interference by the central government. We have seen how the demonetization taken place. How many members were there? Board of governors, board of governors, board. Only 7 people were there. Demonetization in blatant violation of the statutory power provisions of the Reserve Bank of India Act, which is a pre-constitutional law, which is held to be a valid, past the test of Article 13 of the Constitution of India. So, not only that, now the autonomy, there are 2 governors of this institution, very, very, very important institution for the sustenance of the economy of the country, resigned unnecessary interference by the central government, and they dictated their terms to run the Reserve Bank of India. They did not listen. They were forced to leave. So this is once again the attack on the Reserve Bank of India, which affects the economy of this great country. Last, I wanted to conclude, the Constitution and constitutional democracy is very, very important for any country, a developing country, or a capitalist country, or a socialist country. But who has to implement the latent spirit of the Constitution? Which a political party can do that is the important aspect for the people of this country. What Ambedkar has said, I only quote his Constituent Assembly, the speech about 70 years back in the Constituent Assembly, while answering the draft Constitution in the Constituent Assembly, he has said, I will read it and finish my speech. I quote, I feel, however, good a constitution may be, it is sure to turn out bad because those who are called to work it happen to be a bad lot. However bad a constitution may be, it may turn out to be a good if those who are called to work it happen to be a good lot. The working of a constitution does not depend wholly upon the nature of the constitution. The constitution can provide only the organs of state, such as the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. The factors on which the working of those organs of the state depend are the people and the political parties. They will set up as their instruments to carry out their wishes and their politics. Who can say how the people of India and their parties will behave? Will they uphold constitutional methods of achieving their purpose, or will they prefer revolutionary methods of achieving them? If they adopt the revolutionary methods, however good the constitution may be, it requires no prophet to say that it will fail. It is therefore futile to pass any judgment upon constitution without reference to the part which the people and their parties are likely to play. So this speech of great Ambedkar tells us today there is a serious attack. Constitutional political document is an excellent document for good governance, but to see that there shall not be good governance and there shall not be governance of the countrymen, the political party which is in power is trying to throttle the constitution by attacking the constitutional institutions and statutory institutions. It is not good for the country. It is not good for the people of this country. There is a blatant violation of rule of law, and at any cost, we should not allow this to happen in this country. We have to preserve the constitutional democracy, not allowing the party in power to attack either the constitutional institution or statutory institutions. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity.
I have been asked to pick and choose two economic subjects for today's presentation. But before that, as a preface, I am considering the environment. I am tempted to make one general observation with regard to the society, the polity, the kind of problem that we are facing in this. There is no doubt that the attack on constitutional issues began right from the beginning. There were forces which were were doing this during the last 6 to 7 decades. But I want to, as a student of current affairs, make a clear distinction between what happened after 2014 and what had happened earlier. I need this, make a distinction because what we have today, India is a very complex society. There were these kinds of fringe elements creating problems in our society, in our political life. But they remained fringe, at the fringe. But 2014 brought them into the mainstream. There were a number of reasons, and the whole development has been reviewed by intellectuals in a variety of ways. The way how the common man had not received the kind of benefits, and what is more, the slogan of anti-corruption and what have you. But the levers of power have been finally captured after 2014 by a mismatch of communal, undemocratic, totalitarian ruling clique, obsessed with over-centralization and disrespectful of democratic institutions. Now this distinction, somehow I keep making, whenever I deal with the development in individual society, I find, according to me, this is very clear that 2014 has made a watershed in the life of this nation, where these forces have come to the forefront and they have begun to influence every part of society. That is how these institutions, whether it is the judiciary, the CBC, the Election Commission, CBI, Income Tax Department, Reserve Bank of India, and now the statistical system. Now these have been attacked. This attack began much more forcefully after 2014 and during the last few years. I thought that one preface I wanted to introduce for my talk. Friends, I am supposed to talk on two issues concerning the economic sphere. One dealing with our statistical system, the attack that has taken place on that, and the other, the Reserve Bank of India. Justice Gowda has already made a passing reference to the Reserve Bank. I will also be very brief. Now, on the question of the statistical system, fortunately, we have Mr. P.C. Mohanan, who has brought it into the forefront. I understand there is going to be a very comprehensive interview of him subsequently after this lecture, and therefore I don't think I should dilate much on that. You will hear much more from him, because he has done such a comprehensive writing such a systematic writing on this subject of. I'm really grateful to him because many of these issues have been brought to the fore because of him. He is with us, and therefore I don't think I should be talking much on that. But nevertheless, one point on which, because I have done some research in this area, I thought I should bring to your notice, and that is the role of the Niti Aayog in suppressing the independence of the statistical machinery. Niti Aayog Vice Chairman Dr. Rajiv Kumar says that Niti Aayog is no more a planning body. It is a think tank. I thought planning commission has always been like that, but he doesn't understand that distinction. Anyway, then he says Niti Aayog and CSO, that is Central Statistical Office, are part of the same government. So therefore he is combining in terms of role the Niti Aayog and the CSO as one, not realizing for a moment that CSO has a separate, independent autonomy of its own, and it has a role in society. He has no respect for it. I remember even Arun Jaitley once, as finance minister, once said that CSO maintains an arm's length distance from finance ministry. Even Mr. Jaitley said that, but Mr. Raju Kumar, the vice chairman of Niti Aayog, was no respect for it. Now, fine friends, what he said is one thing. We would not, because we have respect for the National Statistical Commission and the CSO and the kind of activity that they are undertaking. We still have faith in the statistical data that are put out by CSO. But friends, two developments have taken place recently, and therefore they have given uneasy feeling amongst us, because the government is capable of tampering with data. The one, when back series of national accounts were to be released, the earlier Niti Aayog Vice Chairman Panagriya stopped from it being published because the earlier data gave an impression that UPA period was more successful, had a higher rate of growth. He said, I can't allow that. He said it in so many words, I can't allow that. And therefore it was stopped. Then recently, when the back series have been brought out, again, instead of CSO releasing it, at one point there was no chief statistical advisor, and therefore the Niti Aayog interfered and released the data. When I looked at the data, I found that there is a definitive evidence of interfering with the figures of a few years. The revision that took place in 2011-12 series gave a substantial increase in the growth of manufacturing sector, even as the growth of the service sector had come down. But the back series now suggests for that period, the UPA period, both have fallen. And I don't think it is statistically correct that some of us who have looked at it find that for a few years the figures have been tampered with, and therefore now you have a different set of back series. I am not getting into the details. Therefore, though we have such great respect for CSO, I continue to hold that view. In fact, I am on the advisory committee of national accounts, and I know how sincere those boys are. But never did I imagine that the government would interfere with the production of data by a CSO. And therefore, friends, I have great worry on this count that as Mr. Mohan himself said that even as the chairman of the National Statistical Commission, they were not interfering with the release of data or national accounts by CSO. The CSO had total freedom and autonomy in releasing the data. But now it looks as though there is the possibility of this kind of interference, which is very dangerous. Yes. So therefore, friends, I looked at, yes, yeah, I'm sorry, that brings me to the subject of the Reserve Bank of India. Friends, the holding of RBI governor's position generally has provided a sense of independence and courage of conviction for the incumbents. Two statements which have come out from Dr. Raghuram Rajan, relevant for the current situation. He said, Hitler took Germany efficiently and determinedly on a path of ruin. Overriding the rule of law. Now, a governor of the Reserve Bank of India, in intellectual capacity, addressing a group of intellectuals in a university, made this observation. Then, on another occasion, he said that when everybody was talking about India is the topmost in growth rate, he said, in the land of the blind, one-eyed man is the king. It needed courage to very blatantly question the intellectual position of the rulers that be. And that is possible with that chair of governorship of the Reserve Bank of India. In a sense, the same thing has happened to Urjit Patel. Urjit Patel was not the first choice of the government. Shetty had proposed Arvind Subramaniam, the then Chief Economic Advisor, as the governor. But Mr. Modi chose, for a number of reasons, I don't want to get into the details, Urjit Patel as the governor. Now, very person has gone against the government, and friends, there are a number of issues which I wanted to handle, but now that we do not have much time, let me tell you one thing. Basically, what has happened is that the conflict between the Reserve Bank and the government has come out of a larger macroeconomic policy which the government is pursuing. It is a policy of what we call the Washington Consensus. It is a policy where there is considerable concentration of fiscal consolidation and monetary control, inflation targeting as a goal. Government itself has contributed to that by changing the law. And also, on top of it, the government has been saying that the previous government, UPA government, was responsible for huge NPA. NPA issues are a serious one, and the Reserve Bank was not doing anything. And therefore, the Reserve Bank of India was pushed to do a series of steps in this. One of them is that they very sharply, as soon as Urjit Patel took over, he introduced the prompt corrective action for 12 banks, 11 public sector banks and 1 private sector bank. And a number of the confluence of factors gave rise to series of low credit growth, inactivity, low saving and investment, and all over. And what is more, there was also the failure of the infrastructure leasing and IRS company, and therefore NBFC suffered. The BJP's strong power base, small scale SMEs they suffered because of demonetization and hurried implementation of GST. All of them gave rise to a complex, uneasy economic situation with low saving, low investment, low employment opportunities, and all these gave rise to a threat to the government. It doesn't, the economy is not doing well, something needs to be done. They are not in a position to do anything because their fiscal policy is not in a position to expand economic activity. The fiscal policy has to be compressed, the funds cannot be released, and therefore, what do? Therefore, you rely on the financial system for larger credit delivery. But the Reserve Bank had its own problems because you told me that I must contain the non-performing assets of banks, and therefore I am adopting these policies. Now you are asking me to reverse those policies. Therefore, the Reserve Bank was asked to reverse the PCA arrangement that they made, give larger loan facilities for NBFCs and small scale industries and others. Then what do you, in such a situation, therefore the Reserve Bank, how do you attack the Reserve Bank? You attack the Reserve Bank by attacking the governing system and therefore the board. And what is more, therefore, for the first time in the history, the post-independence history, Article 7 of the Reserve Bank Act was held out as a threat, because under that, the Reserve Bank can give direction, the government can give direction to the Reserve Bank to do what exactly it wanted. And therefore, all of these put together gave rise to a situation where the entire institutional structure of the Reserve Bank of India is in question. The board, the threat of the Article 7, and now finally, because you have the fiscal problem, we need Reserve Bank reserves, and therefore reserves maintained by the Reserve Bank have also to be reduced. So therefore, you have a kind of a complex situation by which Reserve Bank is being stabbed in this manner by a government which has no respect for, no value for constitutional democracy in this country. Therefore, the constitutional strength, I'm sorry, it has become a discursive thing, but there are a number of issues of this nature which the Reserve Bank of India as an institution which is capable of playing such an effective role, systematic and very thoughtful contribution to the development of this country, that is being squeezed in a variety of ways, and the board has been changed, new board members have come, and now you have a new governor who has agreed with almost every aspect of the government demand that was being put forth before Urjit Patel earlier. Every aspect has been corrected, and now even reserves. Therefore, friends, we have a situation where because of the powerful nature of the government interference in this, that some of the strengths and vitality of institutions like the Reserve Bank of India are being tampered with. I think it is not in the larger interest of this country. There are serious issues. This fits into the larger framework which we are talking about, that constitutional democracy is greatly under threat. It is, I'm sorry, tell me to think that, thank
you. My question is to Justice Gowda. Sir, every now and then we see some of the most frivolous issues. The Supreme Court issues suo motu notices. But what happened when the 17 MLAs were disqualified, and then subsequently the Supreme Court passed strictures on all the actions of the Election Commission? Why is it that they did not ask for a specific kind of a dismissal of an Election Commissioner? Why is Supreme Court shying from these kind of actions?
My question is to the whole panel. As we all have discussed the problem that we are facing now, that the constitutional institutions have been attacked by the government. So, what is the solution for that problem? Because I think the solution is more important than the problem have been discussed. So, what a common man or what we can do to change the situation, or is there any permanent solution for this? Thank you.
Change the government. Hi sir, I'm here all the way from Pune. My name is Pooja. Of course, democracy is a very huge word. It encompasses many things. An individual's freedom to live the life they want is also a part of it. Of course, we're talking about constitutional democracy here. I just wanted to ask you that if an individual who doesn't have any support in terms of lawyers and a safety net wants to appeal to the Supreme Court for an issue which affects the society at large, is there any association in the government that helps him do so? You know, because maybe for whatever reasons he doesn't have the right battery of lawyers. Okay, I'll just make it in one line. If a person wants to appeal to the Supreme Court for an issue which affects the society at large and doesn't have the resource of lawyers, how does one go about it? That's it.
The first question which you asked, the disqualification order 17 MLAs by the Election Commission was set aside by the Supreme Court. Why the Supreme Court did not pass an order or make observation to dismiss the Election Commission? That's the question. The correctness of the order was under challenge before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is required to examine its validity, correctness of the order, but the Supreme Court cannot, on the ground that order is not legal order, cannot pass an extreme, give an extreme direction to the central government to dismiss the Election Commission. Only question was whether it is legal and valid. That's the question. So the Supreme Court could not have issued the direction central government to dismiss the Election Commission. Number one, question answer. Second question is, the gentleman who has asked the
What is the solution?
Solution attacking the constitutional institutions, statutory institutions. The befitting reply is the election. We must teach that government, telling that you are going beyond your brief. You are being given mandate by the people under the People Representative Act. Sovereignty is given to you, a particular political party or a number of political parties come together to govern the people as required under the Constitution. Instead of governance, you are attacking the constitutional institutions which are meant for the people of this country. You are deviating and flouting the constitutional democracy by trying to destroy the constitutional institutions, the statutory institutions. You are not fit to govern the people by forming central government. Must be the answer. For that, I think seminar like this, very important topic which talk delivered by my friend Ram, the right question asked. As a journalist, he has done wonderful job. Rest of the things left to us, the political parties, social activists, students, the youth, and the people of this country must go to the people and tell them that here is a government which has been given good mandate on the basis of their manifesto. They have not implemented not even one manifesto. They have misgoverned and maladministration of this country and trying to destroy the constitutional democracy. Therefore, give them a lesson by debating them in the next election which is scheduled to be held. The third question is, Madam, this country, Constitution is a wonderful document. I told you, political document. Lawyers, the litigants of the society who has unable to engage the lawyers in Supreme Court. Article 39A is by way of an amendment to the Constitution, that is equal justice to the people of this country. Economically disadvantaged persons have got, particularly the women, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, the weaker section society, physically handicapped persons, the laborers, all these people can go and approach the District Legal Services Committee or National Legal Services Committee in the Supreme Court. Supreme Court, there is a committee. You give application to them to give assistance, lawyers assistance and legal fee and court fee. They will take care, and huge fund both by the central government is given. The committee is there. You can approach them. Even senior counsel Mr. Hegde are asked to appear, and they have made it a rule now. If you do pro bono work for the needy people, will be the consideration to confer senior counselship on them. Therefore, you will be given good legal assistance in the Supreme Court. Please ask them. If they don't know, let them contact me. I will assist them to take up their cases in the Supreme Court. I am doing it now. Yes, I am doing it.
Thank you so much. I'd like to give you my biography.
A couple of minutes more available to us.
Yes,
if
I'd like
Mr.
to
Shetty would like to, no more questions please. If Mr. Shetty would like to supplement any of his views, that is most welcome.
In fact, my question was to him.
Friends, I entirely agree with Justice Gowda. There is nothing else that I can do. The only thing that we can do, mobilize people all around, wherever you get an opportunity, to see that in the next election, this government is defeated. Because if that is not done, and for some reason, if this government comes back to power, we will have greater onslaught on the constitutional institutions in this country. And therefore the danger that we see by not doing it, by not defeating this government, we are really going to face a bigger challenge, bigger problem. Because apart from being communal, there is also a total lack of faith in any of the constitutional machinery. And therefore, friends, we have got to come together. We have got to organize the people around and take this as a challenge in every walk of life. Wherever we come together, meet students, meet activists, meet people, we communicate these things and discuss with them in our own humble way. We need to do that, otherwise we have a bigger danger. For such a nice, excellent society which has chosen constitutional democracy and an inclusive framework for success. But that is under attack. And therefore, we have got to move in that direction. If you do that, it will be a great achievement.
Thank you very much. I don't think this session needs a conclusion in words. What I'm proposing to do, using the privilege of my being in the chair, is to prove in action that we are here to protect this constitution and resist all the attacks on the constitution and constitutional rights of these great people. Here in Maharashtra, we are seeing many instances of these attacks on individuals and institutions, and one of them is the recent attack on the public intellectual Dr. Anand Teltumde. He is being hounded by the state authorities for standing up to the falsehoods of this government, this reactionary government, but he is being hounded. So I request all of you here as a collective body, as Mumbai collective, to strongly condemn the activities of the Maharashtra government by hounding public intellectual like Anand Teltumde. We demand that Maharashtra government withdraws all the false cases which are posted about Anand Teltumde. I think that will be the fitting conclusion to this session. Thank you very much.